guys, it's Biff. I'm back in the workshop once again. I've been thinking over the past few days about how I'm going to use magnets to secure the antenna array structure to the top of the ISD columns, specifically to the risers that are on top. If you remember, I used magnets to secure the risers to the top of the columns. Now I'd like to do something similar. So I'll be honest with you, I had to think about this for a while because I certainly want to countersink magnets into the top of the risers to get nice flush fit, but I was a little bit concerned about countersinking magnets into the resin antenna structure. There's not a whole lot of thickness on the horizontal supports on the antenna structure, and depending upon the magnet size I use, I could wind up taking out a lot of material out of this support. So I don't want to really weaken this antenna structure here. So what I elected to do was a little bit of a compromise. I want to use the small, I think that's 1/4 inch diameter magnets on the top of the risers. So I'll countersink 2 in each riser. And then I'm going to use these bar magnets. These bar magnets on the bottom of the antenna structure. I'm going to just glue these right to the bottom of the antenna structure. I like this arrangement because once the magnets are in place on top of the riser, I'll have quite a bit of distance on the bar for this antenna structure to kind of sit. So it could be positioned laterally, if you will, a little bit, in case I'm not really precise with where I glue the magnet or where I countersink its partner magnet in the top of the riser. So I think this gives me quite a bit of flexibility. If I had countersunk a pair, if you will, of the disc magnets, one in the riser and one in the antenna structure, in order to get the maximum clamping force, I have to be really, really precise with where I put the magnets so that they line up with each other perfectly when the models are positioned on the playmat where they are supposed to be. So by going with the bar magnets, I'm basically allowing myself a level of slop in how I do this. My work tends to be a little bit less precise than what I would like it to be, so I think this is a really, really good compromise on how to achieve the effect that I want. Sure, the antenna structure is going to sit just a little bit higher on the risers by about 3/32 of an inch, but I think that might actually provide a little bit of an interesting visual look if you're able to see quite a bit of detail. You know, I suppose you're going to have to be close to it because you will have those actual antenna bars that run horizontally on the antenna structure itself. So I'm going to pursue that plan of action. I believe I will go ahead and glue the bar magnets on the bottom of this antenna structure, let that dry probably overnight so I get a really good bond, and then I will proceed with countersinking my 4 magnets. I may capture some video of me drilling with the drill press and then probably speed it up just to have a little bit of something extra visual to look at for the segment. I'm kind of anticipating JBot complaining about maybe the lack of visual appeal in some of this stuff. So we'll see how that goes. That's all for now. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, so I'm back. Slight change in plans. In my last segment, I indicated that I would go ahead and glue the bar magnets onto the bottom of the antenna array structure. And shortly after recording that segment, I got to thinking a little bit more and decided it would be probably better if I set the bar magnets in the appropriate location once the pairing magnet has been countersunk into the riser. That way these guys are positioned as best as they possibly can be while they're being glued to the antenna structure. I could basically place the bar magnet on top of its pairing magnet and then put glue on the exposed surface and then drop the antenna array structure on top of it. So that's the course of action that I have taken, and as you can see, I have countersunk the 4 magnets on top of the risers. So what I'll do is I'll break away now to have the footage of me working with the drill press. We'll speed that up so it goes through pretty quick, and then I'll be back to talk to you about how I'm going to glue the bar magnets in place. So we'll see you in a little bit. So here I am drilling the first hole. I'm using a special drill bit called a Forstner bit. When it cuts a hole that's very smooth. It's very clean. It's not a very rough or jagged hole. That all has to do with the bit design. It's not as aggressive as the traditional drill bit that many folks are kind of used to. You'll notice that I test the depth of the magnet, or I'm sorry, of the hole using the magnet from time to time. And the drill press really lets you kind of creep up on the depth that you want. There are some screws that I could play with, some nuts I could play with that would set a precise depth with the drill bit, but that's usually more work for a small job like this than what it's really worth. So I just take my time and kind of creep up on the depth of the hole that I want. And again, just drop the magnet in real quick to check the depth. And then when you're happy with it, you can kind of move on. Looks like I got to do one final plunge before I move on to the actual gluing of the magnets. I use the magnet on the bottom of the riser to hold the magnets in place while I rough the surface, and again just roughing the surface to scratch it a little bit, giving the glue something else to bond to. The other nice thing about putting the magnet on the bottom real quick is I can maintain the polarity of all the magnets, their orientation, their north poles are all consistent throughout assembly. You'll notice that once I put glue in the little hole and then drop the magnet in, I'll use my paper towel to push the magnet down to make it flush. That squirts up all the glue along the side, and I can wipe it off so that there's not any excess CA glue. I have done a few other things since we last were together. I have sanded the top of each riser to make sure that the I suppose the plaster is in fact flush with the tops of the magnets. In my drill press work, I may have had a magnet slightly below the surface so that it was actually sunk down a little bit. So by sanding off a little bit of the plaster, I'll have real nice magnet-to-magnet content when the antenna structure is on top. So both of these have been sanded, and then I redrew the pencil lines that I had using the lines that were on the outside in order to give me, again, the visual target when I position everything. That'll do it for this status report. Next status report will focus in on gluing the bar magnets to the bottom of the antenna structure. We'll see you then. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to help us continue improving and expanding our channel's content.